Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Quit Swimming So Stupid, My Grandson is Copying You. It all starts with the most infernal of devices at the gym. The treadmill. See, a friend of mine who is basically a professional gym rat told me, Dude, bro, guy, you gotta up your cardio game. And insists that a half hour on a treadmill every time I hit the gym would be a good plan. Life pro tip. When someone addresses you as dude bro guy, seek a second opinion. Did the treadmill thing for a few weeks, and then I noticed anytime I went downhill my knee was like, hey, you're an a-hole, stop that, which was a problem. As I have a dog who likes to go on walks and where I live is not precisely known for its flat terrain, this was an issue. Then it got worse. Now it was downhills and stairs. Deadlifts? Squats? Leg press? No problem. Slight downhill? Stairs? Oh no. Figuring knees aren't something one should ignore and hope it goes away with, I met with my doctor. She promptly referred me to physical therapy and not a knee brace like I was hoping. I met with the PT lady. She did an exam, said my quads are wonk and need work. I also discovered where my quads are. I was told to do not a lot with my legs at the gym other than bikes or swimming. All things being equal, I'll swim. I can swim, but I cannot swim well for very long. Turns out being out of breath and trying to get actual air in isn't as easy as it used to be, especially when some fat ass is splashing water all around. Until my lungs catch up with the rest of me, I've adopted what I call the fatty twirl. 4 or 5 strokes of freestyle, roll onto my back, and then kick with the legs until I've got air in me. Then roll back for more and pray I haven't gotten close enough to the edge of the pool to smack my hand into it. I assume I'm doing well because PT lady hasn't given me that I am disappoint look typically reserved for dentists when one has forgotten to floss. But that brings us to yesterday. Normally I go in the morning, mostly in the interests of avoiding shrieking children while I'm trying to do my thing. But work was nutty and I went later than I usually do. There were clumps of teenagers doing I don't even know what, but they mostly just snickered to each other and I minded my business. Now, the dry part of my routine is done, and it's pool time. I wound up taking a lap lane next to a grandmother in her 50s who was apparently trying to teach her grandkid, who was 10 tops, how to swim properly. I didn't hear a whole lot, seeing as when my ears weren't underwater, there was a fat guy splashing and making a bunch of noise, but I could tell the kid was splashing and coughing a lot, and this made Grandma upset. I didn't pay attention because it wasn't my business and there were lifeguards. I just wanted to get my laps done. Was on an extended period of back float time trying to catch my breath when I was ambushed by a pool noodle. Said noodle was applied directly to my face and not gently. While not painful, a noodle to the noggin is quite startling. I believe the first words out of my mouth were, "What the hell?" It was Grandma wielding the noodle, and she was giving me a very stern look. "Watch your language and stop doing that." I asked Grandma what it was I was doing that led her to believe smacking me with a noodle was a good idea. Grandma informed me that I was swimming stupid and her grandson wanted to copy me, so I needed to stop. After I confirmed that was in fact why I was assaulted with a noodle, I suggested that she might have better luck in the kids' part of the pool. You know, the one over there, far away from me. She said she was just fine here. I was the one causing the problem. I thanked her for her opinion and promptly resumed my swim. On my return trip, this woman stepped into my lane and grabbed my ankle. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I'm swimming and something grabs my leg, instant panic response. I immediately started flailing and kicking wildly, trying to free myself. Grandma got herself a nice adrenaline kick right on her forearm. I came up gasping for air and ready to start swinging. I'm stopped by the soothing sounds of Grandma wailing about how I just broke her arm. Edit. Her arm was not, in fact, broken. She wound up with a nasty bruise, and that was it. I caught her with the top of my foot. Pro tip. Top of the foot is a bad place to land a kick with. Naturally, that's enough to get the lifeguards involved, none of whom were apparently paying attention before she started screaming. 2 of them are lifting Grandma out of the pool and trying to examine her arm while she's still wailing and flailing. A third is giving me static about kicking another guest in the pool. Well, they started to until I pointed out where the kicking happened and her grandson was. Poor kid had frozen in place with an expression of abject horror. Once she connects the dots, she realizes I'm not the problem. I tell her I'm going to go get changed and then I'll identify myself to the front desk because if I'm going to get interrogated, I'd prefer to be clothed. I did my thing, and by the time I'd showered and changed, there was a manager at the desk apologizing for what had gone on. They reviewed the tapes, and that woman's membership had been terminated, and they're very sorry, please don't sue us. Best. Interrogation ever. The next story is titled, Neighbor Threatens Farmer and Calls Police for Alleged Trespassing on His Own Land, but Faces Epic Revenge from Farmer Who Won't Be Messed With. My family has owned a farm for generations, and I've been running it for years. It's hard work, but it's also incredibly fulfilling, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. The farm is situated in a rural area, and there are several neighboring homes on one side. Most of the people in these homes appreciate the peace and quiet of the countryside, and we all get along well. However, one neighbor in particular made it his mission to make my life miserable. A couple of years ago, an elderly woman who had lived in one of the neighboring houses passed away, and her son, Andrew, inherited the property. I assumed he would sell it and move on, but he moved in instead. I tried to welcome him by taking over a basket of fresh produce and some milk from our dairy cows, but he barely acknowledged me, and I felt like I was wasting my time. He asked me if I always started the tractor early in the morning, and I told him I had to keep to my schedule to keep the farm running smoothly. He wasn't happy about it, but I didn't think too much of it. Over time, I noticed that Andrew seemed to have a problem with me. He complained about the noise from the farm animals, which he said kept him up at night, and he accused me of trespassing on his land, even though I never did. I always made sure that I kept my side of the fence clean and well kept, but he seemed to have it in for me. One day, while I was doing some routine yard work, he approached me and told me that I had to get off his property. I was taken aback by his aggressive tone, and I tried to explain that I was on my land, but he wouldn't listen. Instead, he threatened to call the police and have me arrested for trespassing. I was confused and didn't know what to do. I had always tried to be a good neighbor, but this guy seemed to have a grudge against me for no reason. A few days later, I went on a short vacation, and I had someone take care of the animals and the crops while I was gone. When I came back, I noticed that the fence between our properties had been moved, and I was now supposedly trespassing on his land. When I confronted Andrew about it, he became aggressive and pulled out a machete, threatening to kill me. I was terrified, and I knew I had to do something. I called the police, and when they arrived, Andrew tried to make it seem like I was the aggressor, but the police quickly saw through his lies and realized that he was the one causing trouble. They arrested him, and he was charged with several crimes, including assault with a deadly weapon and drug possession. It turned out that he had been dealing drugs out of his house and was using me as a scapegoat to keep the authorities off his back. After Andrew was taken away, I felt relieved, but also angry. I had done nothing to deserve his hostility, and he had put me and my family in danger. I decided to take action to ensure that he wouldn't be a problem in the future. I talked to a lawyer and made sure that the fence between our properties was legally established, and I also filed a restraining order against him. A few months later, I received a notice from the county sheriff's office that Andrew had been released from jail and was living in a halfway house. I was worried that he would try to cause more trouble, but I tried not to think too much about it. I continued to run my farm as usual, and everything seemed to be going well. That is, until one day when I noticed that some of my animals were missing. At first, I thought they had just wandered off somewhere, but when I searched the property, I found signs that someone had broken into the barn and stolen them. I immediately thought of Andrew. He was the only person who would have any reason to steal my animals, and I knew he was capable of it. I called the police and they launched an investigation. They searched Andrew's new place of residence and found some of my animals on his property. They also discovered evidence that he had been planning to do something even worse. It turns out that Andrew had been plotting to burn down my barn and destroy my crops. He had been working with some other criminals, and they had even made a plan to harm me and my family. If it hadn't been for my animals going missing, I might never have known what they were up to. The police arrested Andrew and his accomplices, and they were charged with a long list of crimes. Andrew was sentenced to several years in prison, and his property was seized by the government. I was relieved that justice had been served, but I was also shaken up by how close I had come to being seriously hurt. After the incident, I decided to take some additional measures to ensure my safety and the safety of my family. I installed a security system around my property, and I made sure that all of my neighbors knew what had happened. I also made a point of keeping in touch with the police, just in case anything else happened. As time went by, I started to feel more at ease. I continued to run my farm, and it became more successful than ever. I even began to expand my business, and I started to sell some of my products at a local farmer's market. I had never felt prouder of what I was doing, and I knew that I had overcome a huge challenge. Update, it's been a few years since the incident, and things have been going well. Andrew is still in prison, and I haven't heard anything from him since he was arrested. My farm is thriving, and I've even hired some additional help to keep up with the demand for my products. I'm also more involved in the community, and I've started to give talks at local schools about the importance of agriculture and the challenges that farmers face. I've also become an advocate for rural safety, and I've worked with local law enforcement to develop programs to help farmers and other rural residents stay safe. I'm proud to say that my efforts have made a difference, and I've received several awards for my work. Looking back, I realized that the incident with Andrew was a turning point in my life. It made me stronger, and it showed me that I was capable of overcoming any challenge that came my way. I'm grateful for the support of my family, my neighbors, and the police, and I'm proud of the work that I do every day. I know that I'll never forget what happened, but I'm also confident that I'm prepared for whatever comes next. The next story is titled, Man Refuses to Let Me Enter the Elevator, Ends Up Spending More Time Than Necessary in the Elevator. So, I'm a black man living in Eastern Europe. Cue one fateful afternoon when I wanted to go down and collect something from a friend who was passing by. I press the elevator and wait for it to arrive. Elevator door opens and there's a couple inside, but as I try to enter, the man blocks the passage, telling me to wait for the elevator to return. Mind you, I'm on the 7th floor and my friend was already waiting for me to come down. Also, the elevator has a fixed time before its doors close, about 20 seconds. So you'll have to wait for the doors to close after you enter. Back to my story. I tell this man and his wife that I'm actually in a hurry and I had to go down now. And he literally stands in front of the elevator entrance shouting, "No!" His wife tells him to let me in since there was still space, but he refused. I said, "Alright," and decided to use the stairs. Cue my petty revenge. I ran down the stairs, didn't mind the cardio really, and pressed all the elevator buttons on all the lower floors. Got to my friend and collected my package, then ran back upstairs. On my way back up, I could hear the man cussing out inside the elevator and his wife's laughter. They hadn't even reached the ground floor yet. I felt so proud of myself. TLDR, man refuses to let me enter the elevator when I was in a hurry, and I ran down and pressed all the elevator buttons. Edit. This definitely blew up. I love the elevator puns, guys. Keep 'em coming. Lol. Some of y'all are much more evil than I am. Someone said I should have gone down to the next floor and keep on pressing the elevator button until he lets me in. One even said I should have gone to turn off the elevator. I don't actually know how to do that, and I don't think I would have if I knew where the switch was. Also, it would have been much more satisfying if the elevator stopped working on its own accord. COVID or racism? I don't know, and I actually don't care. I was wearing a mask, but he wasn't. The last story is titled, Crazy Karen at a Starbucks. This just happened at the Starbucks I'm still sitting at. I'm a regular customer at a Starbucks in my town, and for reference, I was just sitting at a table watching this happen. So, a woman walks up to the counter with her drink, dragon fruit iced tea with lemonade in it, and calls over the barista. Woman. Hi, sir, could you please remake this drink? Barista. Yeah, sure, what was the problem with it? Woman. It made me feel sick. There's something wrong with your lemonade. Remake it right now. Barista. Okay, no problem, man. So, he goes to remake the drink and rinses the cup, cap, and straw with water. He hands her back the cap and straw, and she goes, "Oh, it's okay, you can just use another cup and stuff. You have it, don't you?" So this guy uses another cup to make the drink. She takes it back, and then starts getting mad. Woman. Did you use the same lemonade from the pitcher? Barista. Yes, man, that's the lemonade we use for everyone. Woman. Can you just get the concentrate and put it in my drink? Barista. For sure. So he makes the drink for a third time with a third cup, per request of the woman, and hands it back to her. She finally seems happy and walks back to her table. You'd think that's it, but oh no, this woman just doesn't seem to ever be happy. She comes up to the counter and calls the barista over. I kid you not, these are her exact words. Woman. Can you have someone else make this for me? You must be new here and making it wrong. I am a regular, so I feel like I should be treated better than this. Barista. Actually, I've been here for a little over a year, and I've never seen you before. If you need me to, I can make this drink for you again. The woman throws the cup at the barista, cussed him out, and leaves the store in a rage. At this point, I feel so bad for the barista that I go over and help him clean up the mess she made. So that was the crazy Starbucks experience I just had. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.